Preparing now to stream live.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Mindfulness at Lunch with Brahm Center. Once again, introducing myself to all of you. My name is Eric. I'm the mindfulness psychologist at Brahm Center, and today I'll be leading um, the Mindfulness at Lunch session. And the theme for today will be embracing change. So just take this moment to check in with yourself and just take this time to sense how's this moment for you. Probably, last night you might have read about the latest tightening of measures by the government in response to the COVID-19 situation in Singapore. And you might notice, certain changes that are taking place and how some of these changes might be affecting you. So it's really helpful for us to take moments in a day just like this to connect with ourselves, to care for ourselves, and let's start off by doing a short body scan practice, shall we? So taking this moment to allow yourself to find a comfortable sitting position. So wherever you are, whether you are commuting, whether you're working from home, or perhaps you're at your respective workplaces, or perhaps you're just taking this time to be with yourself. Allow yourself to find this space where you can really set aside this time. So taking this moment to invite your eyes to close, perhaps sensing into the posture that you're in right now, observing whether that's supportive in this moment. And if that's all right for you, allowing yourself to gently close your eyes and allow yourself to have this space to settle in, to be in connection with yourself. So let's begin this practice by taking in 3 beautiful deep breaths. Feeling into the chair that's supporting you right now. Noticing the contact that it provides us, the support. Bring this awareness into the lower half of our body, beginning to ground ourselves in this very present moment. This moment that is just happening right now, not the past few moments, not the future moments, but just here. Sensing to what it means and what it feels like to be sitting if you are. If you're standing, just observing the weight of the body upon both your feet. Disengaging from thinking and moving ourselves into this mode of being. So feeling into our feet, just sensing into our toes just as they are right now. Noticing the sensations that are there. Whether is it tingling, or maybe there's no particular sensation, and that's normal. So wherever you are or however you are right now, pausing for this moment to sense into our feet. So while things around the world in our society might change rapidly, things that happen that may well be beyond our control. But in this moment, we can take control of what's here in our body right now. to be able to pay attention to what's present, just the way it is. The feet, the toes, the heel that is resting upon the ground. And so just resting in this moment and beginning to explore the sensations at our ankles. Noticing the ankles, both the left and the right. How does it feel right now? At ease, or perhaps that certain sensations right there. They may be calling out for attention, and we can attend to it very kindly, not needing to dismiss it, but beginning to welcome it. Welcome it like a guest. And then gradually shifting this focus into our calves and the shin, however they are right now. So observing if the calf muscles are they tight in any area, or maybe it is comfortable, relaxed, just the way they are right now. So this is a beautiful way to begin to connect to this body. The calves, the shin, feeling into our kneecaps right now, the left and the right kneecap. So noticing if you have been observing certain sensations in your kneecaps, especially when you bend down or when you stand up to walk. With a certain pressure that's upon here, we can begin to show care and concern to this part of the body, listening to what's needed, perhaps moving slowly, if that's what it takes to show kindness to ourselves, not needing to rush. So now the next out breath, gradually letting go of the tension and the kneecaps, and begin to bring this very loving attention into our thighs. So feeling to both the left and the right thigh. Might observe if your hands are or palms are just resting upon this area. And this is that moment of awareness. Awareness of exactly how the body is right now. Awareness of also if you subconsciously bring in certain judgments or thoughts, sometimes on its own without us realizing it. And just that's just the way it is. Sometimes our mind may wander. And if you do happen to observe that in this moment your attention may have drifted off to a certain thought or worry, that's okay. In the next breath, hey, you're right here once again. Just this moment of being. And now, on the next out breath, letting go of that tension and the thighs and begin to shift its focus into our bum, our sit bones. Do what's supporting us as we sit here. Predominantly, most of the weight could be centered upon the bum region. If you're seated, resting awareness in this area. And then gradually shifting this focus into our lower back. So sensing into the lower back, the tailbone, just the way the back is feeling right now. Observing whether the posture is supporting us as we sit here. So the lower back muscles, feeling into the middle spine, and all the way up into the upper back, the shoulders. Breathing, breathing with this region of our body. You might actually feel into the back muscles that are being used as we engage in this process of respiration. And so if you have been sitting a lot at your workplace or wherever you are, turning this moment of compassion to ourselves, letting this part of the body rest. Notice what's here. Embracing this region of our body just as it is. Not needing to resist any aches or pain that may arise if and when they do. And that's just all part of change. Our body is changing every day. New cells are growing. Cells that receive the oxygen. Some cells die off. New cells emerge. And that's just the way it is. And it's all happening without us realizing it. That change in the body is happening all the time. And we can begin to embrace it and accept ourselves and this body for what is, has, and is giving us to live each moment of the day. So right now, shifting this focus into the shoulders, so sensing into the left and the right shoulder. Just acknowledging however they are right now, whether is it tense or relaxed. And gradually expanding this awareness to include the upper arms, the elbow, down into the forearms, wrists, and both the hands. How the hands doing? Are they naturally at ease or are they kind of clenched up in a certain way without us noticing it? So feeling into the fingertips, thumbs all the way to the last finger. And then beginning to, on the next out breath, letting go. And the next in breath, gradually shifting this focus into the belly. Feeling into the movement of the air as it fills the diaphragm. And so the process of breathing is a very poignant reminder that change is happening all the time. Each breath that's been inhaled in the body, that marks a change in the body as well. The receiving of this beautiful oxygen. And as we exhale, we exchange the carbon dioxide for more oxygen. As we breathe in the next moment, again and again. So feeling into the chest and the lungs in this area, embracing, embracing the process of breathing. That we can trust that the breath is always here, regardless of what happens internally and externally around Singapore, or even within ourselves. We can begin to lean into this breath. Use it as an anchor. Stay grounded. And now, gradually on the next out breath, shedding this focus to the heart. Just feeling to the heart. Be aware of the heartbeat right here. That is still beating. Beating for each moment that is here. Going strong. And we can be thankful that that's how it is right now. And now on the next out breath, shifting this focus into the neck, the throat. Just feeling into this area. How's the neck feeling? And then gradually expanding the awareness into the face. So feeling into our facial expression, the muscles right here. Are we frowning or smiling or relaxed? So sensing into the mouth, the nose, the eyes, ears, the head, the top of the head. And the next in breath is expanding this awareness to the whole of this body, breathing as one. Breathing as if our life depends on this one breath. And we do it, in fact, depend on this breath. So embracing this moment. And very gently allowing yourself to take in 3 more beautiful, beautiful deep breaths. And at the end of that third breath, if your eyes are closed, you may gently invite them to be open. And at the same time, bring a beautiful smile on your face. And just thanking yourself for taking this time to nourish yourself, to embrace yourself for how you are right now. So I'd like to invite all of you to just share in the chat over here on Zoom and also on Facebook. After doing this 20 minutes practice of the body scan, how are you feeling right now? What's the sensations in your body? How does your mind feel? When we begin to have this space to just be in the moment. So take this time to enter your comments on either our Facebook or also on our Zoom page. So a couple of you are mentioning that, after doing this practice, you're sensing into a state of feeling more relaxed, and that's beautiful. Some of us might still feel into certain tension, and it's really helpful to observe where this tension is. So if you do notice that it's at your shoulders and at your back, begin to embrace the tension in the body. The reason why tension arises in the body at certain areas, especially at our neck area or at our shoulders, is really because um, there could be something that we are resisting, whether is it change, whether is it a thought, that arises in the moment, something that we fear. And so the body immediately might move into that fight or flight mode. And that's where we go into that survival panic mode, right? Where we might want to utilize on, our resources in the body. So the tightening of the shoulders and back are just the body's ways of responding or rather reacting to perhaps what might be coming up here, in the thoughts that comes up, from moment to moment. So um, So I think it's interesting, when we begin to observe, when we receive news of what's the evolving situation in Singapore nowadays relating to the COVID-19 situation and how the government has been putting in place more tightening measures. Um, take this moment to reflect on what that means for us. So today's theme is really on embracing change. And when you think of change, right? What's your reaction to that? So I like you to put in your comments on Facebook or even on Zoom as well. When change happens, how do we typically react to it? And this is really important, right? Because sometimes it just happens so quickly, right? That perhaps when change happens, one of the very first emotions that would kick in, right? Like some of you has mentioned, is actually our fear instinct, right? Of, oh no, how am I going to be impacted by the change that's been put in place, or changes that is evolving so rapidly that before I know it, it has changed again, right? And so I personally feel like even in the practice that we did just now, so I'm not sure if you heard about what I mentioned earlier as we did the boy scan practice, that change is really happening all the time. And the best way to be reminded of that is to tune into our body itself. So take for example, as we began the body scan practice, right? We took in that 3 beautiful deep breath, right? As we welcome the in breath, that marks a change in that moment itself, right? Because we are introducing oxygen into our body, right? Vitalizing our red blood cells, right? With whatever that's needed. And so when we begin to relate to change, it's helpful to take that time to connect with ourselves. Perhaps taking that moment to bring awareness to how we are feeling. So whether is it fear, whether is it anxiety, we can begin to just observe what's this fear, anxiety feeling like, when we are bombarded constantly by the news, whether is it on Channel News Asia, whether is it on Facebook, social media. And in fact, nowadays, if we compare it to what happened um, in the previous widespread illness like SARS in the past, what actually did change is the widespread use of social media nowadays, right, as a way to convey information and sometimes even misinformation. And so this is where it's really important for us to tune in to ourselves, when we read something, when we read a news, when we see that, there is certain changes that is about to take place. So whether is it the more um, tightening of the social distancing measures, the stay home notice, I think it's important for us to just take that moment to pause. And if we can do it more frequently, we can ask ourselves, is this helpful for me right now? Is this helpful for me right now? The way that I'm reacting to the change, whether is it in a very panicky way or whether is it driving my impulse to to buy items, to stock out of food items. And so this practice of mindfulness again and again reminds us of the possibility that we can begin to take control of what's here, at least for ourselves, of how we are going to respond to the change that is coming our way. So, just a short recap, mindfulness is really about paying attention to the present moment in a particular way and non judgmentally. So, I think I'd like to hear more from you as to perhaps can share in keep your comments coming. How are you reacting to the changes that you're seeing in our current situation nowadays, and what does it mean to you? Whether is it work-wise or in your own personal life, have you been able to cope with the recent changes that is being announced by the government or even by your respective employers? So a couple of you mentioned that what's really helpful is to begin to slowly adjust, right? To adjust to the changes. And I think that's beautiful, right? When we allow ourselves not to rush into things and to just have that moment of acknowledging that change has arise in this moment, whether it means that now you may need to make changes to your routine, especially and nowadays, I think just recently the government announced that is encouraging employers to allow for telecommuting whenever that's possible. And one of you just mentioned that perhaps you can begin to work from home on alternative weeks, and it's great. And that's beautiful, when we can begin to embrace the change, right, and look on it in a positive way. And that's important, right? When we begin to let go of our judgments of what the change might be for us. Initially, it might be more tinted with fear or perhaps negativity. And if we allow ourselves to begin to take on a different perspective, that hey, maybe this change is another way for me to make adjustments, to see it differently. And so for myself, on a very personal level, um, the past 2 weeks has been a huge change for me because you have been tuning in to my past two mindfulness at lunch Zoom sessions that I took over from Angie. Is that I announced that I recently, in the past 1 month, became a father. And And that's a huge change for me, right? Because in the past, I've been a caregiver for my dad, where I've been taking care of him when he suffered from stroke, multiple strokes, and vascular dementia. And I began to understand, what caregiving really means, in a very authentic way of giving myself to the person that I care. And now it's my very own son. So I'm very thankful that at least when he was born, I had the luxury of be fortunate enough to have a confinement nanny to help out my wife and also caring for our newborn son. And that just a week plus ago, because she's only here for 28 days, and thankfully she managed to leave before the government put in place all these tightening measures, where even Malaysia locked down, where they are not able to travel in or out. And so I'm very thankful that I managed to have had the support of my confinement nanny, who supported our family, myself, my wife, and my son throughout in the past 1 month. And so when she left, it was really a huge change for me, because it means that my wife, myself, we are all on our own independently, to care for our newborn. And it was a huge change, because it meant waking up multiple times in the night to feed my newborn son, Erickson. He would stir in his sleep, and that would be a cue for him, for us to notice, to feed him. And I realized that what helped me, even though I was really tired, constantly being kept engaged, by his demands for milk, also his demands for the need to have his diaper changed, is that what's very important is for me to stay in the present. And I think that when I allow myself to stay in the present moment, I begin to embrace the change of what all this means, right? From moment to moment, that I can never quite predict what can happen next, right? A cry, could mean a need for food, a need for milk, and that's just his survival cue, right? For him to to stay, every moment, right? To embrace what comes up next. And so there's so much things that we can begin to learn from when we turn towards our moment to moment experiences. And so I realized that if I were to allow myself to let go of the worries, oh no, what does that cry mean? Oh no, I cannot have my meals in peace. Then I'll be constantly getting caught up with what's going to happen next, rather than when it happens, attending to it with mindful presence. And I think that what it means to begin to embrace change, right? Where sometimes we can ask ourselves this question: why do we resist change? And right, so I'd like to, put out the word out, or have to hear your comments. If you feel like, at times when change happen, and you begin to resist these changes, why is that so? Right, so I really love to hear from some of you, um, why that is so. So some of you mentioned is because you feel not confident, and I think that's very important, right? Why do we feel not confident? Same thing for me. Initially, I was very afraid or even terrified of showering for my son, because he is so fragile, right? His I think just past 5 weeks, and even though he's growing every day, but he still feels so small, right? And so when I begin to shower him, I was noticing, my heartbeat was raising, because I was so afraid that, what if I get it wrong? What if, I begin to not begin to let go, and then he might slip totally into the bathtub. And so this morning, um, my wife told me, "Hey Eric, um, today I'm going to let you shower Erickson unsupervised, right?" So what that means is I'm going to do it alone. And she went on to engage in other tasks. So there I was. I told myself, okay, this is it. Um, just be my be myself, right? And I know I could do it. I have watched so many times of how the nanny has showered him. I watched how my wife have very confidently showered him, and how I was at the side supporting. And today I let go of the judgments. I let go of the critical thoughts that I have of myself, and to dive deep into the moment. And that became a very beautiful way for me to connect with my son, that I'm doing something for him that I know is going to be one that is nourishing, where he will come up, feeling all refreshed. And so that brings us to the point where, sometimes why we resist change is because we fear. We fear that we are not able to be confident enough to accept it. And so acceptance and confidence is one very important part when it comes to embracing change. And I would say that um, what's also very important, right, is to notice our thoughts that comes up, or what begins to impede us in embracing the change, right? And thoughts are one thing that sometimes can be a huge challenge, right? From allowing us to move forward and embrace the change that comes our way. And so this is where I invite all of us to just take this moment. Think of one change right now that is the biggest to you in this moment. What's one thing good that came out from it? So I'd like to hear from you. So likewise, keep your response and your comments coming on either our Zoom platform or on Facebook Live. So think of one change that has recently happened for yourself personally, and what's one good thing that has arisen or arose out of it. Great. And I think it's beautiful, when we can begin to reflect and to bring up, all these different viewpoints, of what change can begin to mean for us. So I'm going to take this time, if you allow me, for those of you who have shared on our Zoom platform, to share with the rest as well. So one of you mentioned that as a result of some of the advisory that the government had put in place, such as encouraging employers to allow for alternative work arrangements. And so working for home for 2 weeks and cooking more and eating healthily is one good thing that came out from this situation. And I agree, it's true, right? So in the past 2 weeks that after my nanny left, so I think I mentioned in the previous sessions that I love to cook. And so I took on this opportunity to begin to cook healthy meals for my family and myself. So really buying the brown rice, cooking it for a longer time, um, choosing healthier choices. And so, and begin to just appreciate that, hey, that's a good time for us to begin to lean into, what can we do more of, right, that can nourish ourselves, right? So even though we can't go to our workplace, but at least, we can begin to eat healthily, right? Because we know exactly what we are putting into what we are cooking. Beautiful. um, One of you mentioned that you also feel into this sense of gratefulness, right? That the government is putting in place. So amidst the changes that is rapidly evolving, you're feeling grateful that our government is taking active approach to begin to protect our seasons, right? So beautiful. Um, One of you also mentioned that because of the changes that's being put in place, you're beginning to connect with your family members, all right, especially with your loved ones, right? So I think this is beautiful, right? Especially nowadays, I think the government just mentioned that they are encouraging the overseas students to return back to Singapore, whether is it from UK or the US, and this marks a time, right, for family to connect with their family members once again. So after the 14 days of the stay home notice, right, that's a beautiful time to connect. So I think it's beautiful, right? When we begin to think of what's one good thing that came out from this change, right? So at least for myself, in the past 2 weeks, so even though after my nanny has left, it was very challenging in terms of managing, in the day-to-day activities of preparing the milk, doing the household chores, attending to my newborn. I would say, at the end of the day, it's very fulfilling because it is that sense of moment to moment bonding that I could have with him, right? And if I were to allow myself, and I did allow myself to just look at him, when he's feeding, or even when he's changing his diaper, that sometimes at that moment itself, when you think that he's like all being all difficult, um and there you have it, a smile emerge from that moment, and it all makes it worthwhile, right? So, and I think that's how we can begin to look at change, right? That when change come our way, and I would like to draw analogy to that of being at the beach, right? So sometimes, at the beach, we might see the waves coming, and the waves sometimes might be huge. They just come crashing upon the shore. And so when we allow ourselves to begin to surf with the wave, instead of dodging the wave or running away from it, how about we begin to surf with it? Let the strength or the power of the wave guide us forward, right? In new ways that we have not imagined ourselves to be, right? So, and this is what I've been experiencing so far in the past few weeks, is to ride the change of wave, or rather to ride upon this moment, right? That it can bring about many, many different opportunities for us. Um, for those of you who are tuning in, you have been issued a stay-at-home notice, or you have been quarantined as a result of being in close contact with someone who have unfortunately got in contact with the COVID-19, and you're thinking, what can I do at home? Well, one thing is tune into this session, to give yourself the time to connect internally, right? During the boys camp practice, to notice what are the thoughts that may be arising, whether is it of fear or worries. Maybe you can begin to take a walk at home, right? Sometimes when we walk, we can begin to tune into each step that we take. And that's also embracing the changes, right? That we can make the best of what we have. So what I would like to add on to this is also to begin welcome to welcome the changes when they come. And so I'd like to take this moment to read to you a poem, right? And this is a poem by Rumi. Um, and if you can, wherever you are right now, I invite you to just invite your eyes to close. We're going to do a very short practice for this time. All right, so Taking this time to close your eyes and take 3 beautiful deep breaths once again. Checking in with yourself after hearing and during the practice earlier, what's here for you right now? Embracing the changes as this is already here. So whether the changes are good or not so good, acknowledge yet it's here, it's present. Breathe into the area of the body that you can feel into that sensation of change most vividly. So whether is it your heartbeat, when you sense into the anxiety, as breathing into your shoulders, if you feel like that's the area that always tenses up, just imagine that in-breath directed towards that region of the body. Breathing in kindness, and the out-breath, letting go. Let go of the thoughts. They're not helpful. Embrace the thoughts that's helpful to you, that perhaps you're good enough, that what you have in your home, at your workplace, is good enough. Beginning to really bring out this sense of gratitude into this moment. Gratitude is often a very beautiful antidote for anxiety or fear. Giving our thanks to what we already have. This breath, this body, our family members, however near or far they are. That even though we may not be physically in contact with them, we can think of them. We can send kind thoughts or kind wishes to them, such as, may you be well, happy, and be safe. May you be well, happy, and be safe. And sending these kind thoughts, these well wishes to the people that we care about, the people that care for us as well. That in this moment, in these very challenging times, we are actually more connected than ever when our hearts align as one to be kind, to be there for ourselves and for others. Breathing to this moment, feeling to the warmth of this breath. And that let's just be reminded that as long as we are breathing, like what John Kabat-Zinn says, as long as we are breathing, there is more right than wrong with us. And that goes the same for the world. Every time you see the sun, the daylight, and the nightfall, There's more right than wrong that's happening in the world. So let us focus on what's good. So right now, as you let this breath be in the background, I'm going to take this moment to read to you a poem by Rumi, and it's called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are crowd of sorrows, who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So welcome yourself, being a human as a guest house. Whatever fear or anxiety that we are experiencing as a response to the changes that's rapidly evolving in our immediate or external environment, take this time to welcome each one of these as guests, including the thoughts that pop up in our head, the thoughts that may not be so helpful. Treat it as a guest. Treat it honorably. Embrace it. And when the time comes, let it go. Letting go of what's not helpful. And like a guest house, the guests will come and go. So allow yourself to observe another 3 more beautiful breaths. Embrace this breath. Embrace it fully. And whenever you feel comfortable and ready, just begin to move your fingers, move your toes. And if your eyes are closed, beginning to invite them to be open and bring beautiful smile back on your face. All right, so how's everyone doing? After that short practice, after hearing to the poem by Rumi of the Guest House. So I'd like to hear from you. How are you feeling right now? In after doing the different practices to connect with yourself once again. That not all change is necessarily bad or unpleasant. That when we begin to lean in and focus on the good and allow ourselves to take in the good on whatever that's here and not fear it. That's how we can begin to embrace the changes that come our way, and the changes that come our way will continue. Whether big, drastic, or small, is here to stay. So what we can do for ourselves is to shine more kindness on ourselves by indulging in moments like this of an hour practice, of tuning in to what can we learn from it? How can we grow and mature even fully, from all these changes that come our way? All right. So, like to kind of read out some of the comments that you have coming in. So one of you mentioned that change can give us a chance to discover what we have not expected. Beautiful, exactly, right? So coming out of the changes, sometimes it brings out certain things that we have not expected, and for good, for better, right? That hey, maybe now I can pick up a new skill. So whether it may be, watching YouTube, learning a new skill, making ourselves relevant in this rapidly changing society and space. There's a lot of online courses nowadays where we can pick up skills to enrich ourselves and broaden, our horizon in terms of skill sets that may be called for, when this whole situation is over. How then can we begin to contribute to our workplace, right? That could be of benefit, of contribution, of positivity to others. And so, I'm learning a lot, just being a father. The changes that came my way has taught me far more, in the past 2 weeks than before. I would even say more so over the past 5 years that I've cared for my dad because it's so new, right? And that there's no textbook out there that's going to teach us how to live with it, right? And each moment itself embrace give us the opportunity to learn. And so with each wave of change that comes, it's a new wave of opportunity, right? So it gave me the chance to be more patient. Each time that my son would cry and get really really fidgety and move all about, I take in that 3 beautiful deep breath and say that yeah, he's just expressing what he needs, right? And I can stay present, right? I can be grounded, right? And that's how I continually show up for him and for my family members. Beautiful. Um, so now if you mentioned that you feel more calm right now, excellent. And you begin to learn to stop multitasking, right? And that goes the same, right? So for some of you who have been eating your lunch during this practice, are you? Are you eating your lunch while doing the practice? I hope not. So do one thing at one time, right? It's a constant reminder that we can give ourselves if we're eating and we notice that our handphone, our mobile phones are nearby. That's why I constantly would remind myself is to turn it face down, right? And keep it one side. And so I can really attend to the practice of mindful eating. Great. So um, I hope that today's session has been helpful for all of you who have been tuning in. Some of you mentioned on Facebook as well that during these difficult times or the changes that came our way, you begin to look at or change your perspective on time, right? That time can be used in other meaningful ways, right? So the time that we take to commute, now that we are at home, we can actually spend more time to nourish ourselves, right? Doing things that we love, connecting to our loved ones, right? So whether is it through WhatsApp, video calls, or just calling someone and telling them that we are there for them is one way that we can all stay connected and be supported in this period of time. All right, so I hope that um, today's session has been helpful to all of you out there, and I hope to be back again probably next week. And may all of you be well, happy, And like what Pa Chu Kang, in his latest video says, be steady, right? Stay safe, wash your hands, and smile often if you can. All right, so signing off. Thank you, everyone, and may you have a good day ahead. Thank you, everybody.